Today's episode of Scrolling to Death is sponsored by Bark Technologies. I am truly so grateful that these days parents have a safer device option for our kids. The Bark phone was built for families who are looking to ramp up their child's online safety. It has parental controls built in and allows us to manage their screen time and their entire digital experience super easily. And Bark is dropping the new Bark Watch any day now. So click the link in the episode notes for more info on Bark. Now on to my interview with longtime teacher Matt Brady for a conversation about screens at school. And today I have Matt Brady, who you are a longtime educator, entrepreneur, a writer, and you've been with me before. This is the second time we are speaking. And Matt, we spoke originally back in the summer, and you had been working hard for a long time to try to get a bell-to-bell phone ban implemented in your high school that you teach at. And I'm wondering how that went.
Yeah. I got listened to, and I think a little bit metaphorically patted on the head, and they went and did their own thing. And so we don't have bell to bell. We have kind of just that toothless, shouldn't have them out during class time, shouldn't have them out during class change. They can have them out at lunch. And so we have all these little cracks that they can sneak through. We were told initially, administrators would handle the hallways, and I think all teachers who'd been there for longer than 4 minutes kind of just went, sure. And so, it's we used to have contests in my old school of win a prize if you see all 4 administrators in 1 week. So it's, I don't know. It's not kind of the Mad Max world in my school, at least, that I was thinking it could be. But I'm hearing from friends at other schools that it is kind of, schools are siloed. And so it's up to the interpretation of the admin as to which particular fire you want to put out. So I've heard from one school saying that, basically hallways, we're not even touching them. Don't worry about it in hallways, which is, I don't know. I can be a little bit black and white on policy. And I was like, that's not what the policy says. So why do we have a policy? Which is one of the things I stressed on my Substack of, if we're just going to do what we want here and there. In my class though, it's, that's kind of spread. I think I got labeled as the phone guy, and asked what to do in different classrooms. And so there are a lot more the shoe bag things, the calculator bags, and the racks. I have a wooden rack in mine, and other teachers have bought those. So those are good. And class, seems to be working. I worry about the classes with subs, because like any other school, we have a few long-term subs in there because we can't fully hold on to staff with medical things and other things going on here and there. So, and my big concern is that I've never known a school policy that gets stronger as you go into fall. Everything, we get tired fast, and this is our 6th week we just started, and around week 6, you're just kind of wanting that weekend to get here pretty quick, and you kind of start to see things just erode a bit, and I'm a little bit worried about how that's going to go.
Okay. Why do you consider it to be a problem that the kids can access their phones in between classes and at lunch?
In between classes, they either have their AirPods in and they're just checked out, or they're getting on social media. I mean, they're not either, whether it's like a group chat or just straight up TikTok or something like that. They're checking social media. They're not checking homework. They're not really checking their grades or something like that. It's kind of feeding the worst parts of what they can get off the phone. And then at lunch, it's one of those things again that they're not being social. They're not being kids. My school is a high performing high school. And so we have a lot of kids, ASD, ADHD, and phone is therapy. Phone has been, a part of their control, their coping mechanisms for a long time. And so after, 3 hours of class, I'm going to go sit and watch something on my phone for half an hour rather than talk, rather than visit, rather than just maybe chat a little bit and eat your lunch. So,
yeah. So, having them, whether it be between classes at lunch, it restricts them from socializing with each other, which is like very important for their brain development
Yeah.
and a lot of different skills that they need to function as adults and just humans. And also just being distracted by something on the device. There's something it's been described to me as a distraction tax. Like it takes them a long time to get refocused
Right.
when they're on a device and then they try to pay attention to something that's not as exciting and clippy and short
Sure.
and,
Yeah.
as whatever they're learning in class.
It's kind of like the multitasking of no,
Hmm.
I can switch back and forth. I can be watching
Yes.
something on my phone and then come right back and be part of the content. You can't.
Yeah. Big myth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, well, part of
Um,
the problem, one other thing that is with all this, and I know you talk to a lot of teachers and you'll probably hear the same thing, is once that school year starts, all we do is react, 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 react.
mhm.
There's nothing proactive anymore. Um,
Mhm.
it's just with the empathy I can have for administrators, it's just, one fire to the next, push this out, make sure this person's calm, make sure this kid doesn't see that kid, however it
Mhm.
is. And so, all the high-minded ideals that I was pushing for this summer of here's why we need it. Nobody's
Mhm.
got time for that. Nobody's got time to listen. And certainly with the tragedy in Georgia,
Mhm.
um, that's another one. I don't think anybody wants
Yeah.
to touch phones right now and suggest that we get stricter with it because all the what ifs that can never be proven, but I understand as a parent.
Yeah.
Everything understandably kind of goes on the back seat a bit.
Mhm. That's understandable, and I get that, but that the fact that there was recently a school shooting doesn't change the fact that the phones don't make them safer in those situations like we've talked about before, and, we don't need to go into that today because of that sensitivity, but it just doesn't change that fact.
It's well, as I teach chemistry and physics,
Mhm.
and I always tell my students when we talk about scientific theories, the
Mhm.
difference between a scientific theory, and a belief is
Mhm.
you can't bring facts to a belief fight. You will lose every single time. And
Mhm.
we have the data, like you said, and I've written a pretty chunky article about just how phones don't make students safer in a shooting, in a school shooting situation, which is
Mhm.
a horrible thing to write about. But we have the data. The data is there. The experts are there. It's not going to win a fight against an angry mom or dad at a school board meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll leave that there. I think that we can link to your article for more information for those who are interested. One thing that I've noticed is lacking regarding the phone bans is communication with parents and setting expectations and when they let parents know about changes. For example, we do have a stricter phone policy at our elementary school, and we got the email like 2 days before school started with the new phone policy when I feel like if they want buy in from parents, that conversation should start earlier and should be well supported. What did that look like for you? Or was the policy just not changed enough to even like let anybody know?
Our policy was district wide.
Okay.
What I said there, what it was like, middle schools and elementary schools are closer to bell. And I
Mm-hmm.
think elementary school principals would have the latitude to be able to have the phones held. If elementary school kids with their phones, have their kids have the phones held in their homeroom or their classroom,
Mm-hmm.
all day. But high school, we can't run like that, the way the
Right.
rule is with us. So our policy, it wasn't changed a lot. I'd heard from some folks on school board that they wanted it changed more, and this was a compromise I could get.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't changed that much, but there were significant pieces of it. And we did have notices going out, emails going out, to parents, and these
Mm-hmm.
are the new policies. And our superintendent did a couple of, she did a couple of press conferences where they did talk about this.
Okay.
And to get the message out. And so it's holding, but again, I can only speak for my school, and my school
Yeah.
it's a high performing school, and we have kids who kind of their pastime now is getting into the good college. And so they don't
Mhm.
want to do anything that could possibly upset that or possibly get them in trouble. So we kind of have that on our side. But I know other
Mm-hmm.
schools which aren't so terrific when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to discipline and student behavior. I know those are the ones where phones are out in the halls and kind of just
Yeah.
pick your fights, which is understandable.
Yeah. We talked about how they can use it in between class. Well, they're not supposed to, but they do. And then at lunch. But regarding them not being allowed to use it in the classroom, that then is up to the teacher to enforce that. Is that easy to enforce? Is it hard to enforce? What does that look like in practice?
I've had to change a few things on how I teach. I'm not teaching physics this semester, but in my physics class, there was an experiment where we did use the phone because that was the best measuring tool because we can't
Mm-hmm.
afford to buy the newest measuring things and tools for physics. So for me, it is an absolute. Your phone's up here. I teach upperclassmen, so I don't do this is how I take attendance. I do my phone count better equal my body count in this room, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to start asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets my last, stragglers up there to put them in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
So it's not hard for me. I know other strong teachers with strong classroom management. It's not hard for them.
Okay.
I know teachers with not as strong classroom management, and it's a bit more for them. It's a bit harder for them
Mm-hmm.
to get the class, especially if you got some ninth graders that want to make their reputation known among
Mm-hmm.
their friends or things like that. So it can go a little bit off track depending on the teacher, which again is
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate that means inconsistencies in the policy and inconsistencies in how it goes from classroom to classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an issue today where the internet went down in school. The wireless went down, and my
Mm-hmm.
kids were needing to be working on an assignment online. There was no Wi-Fi, and
Mm-hmm.
kids had sports after school, and they're just starting to sweat it of how can I do this? And finally, one just said, "Can I use my phone to get a hotspot so I can use this, so I can do this assignment?"
Mm-hmm. I guess.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I know that's not going to be an everyday, but
Right.
it's
Right.
just that it would be so much easier if that decision was taken out of my hands, if I didn't have to make that call, if other teachers didn't have to make that call. But here we are.
Do certain students push the boundaries with the phones, try to make excuses to why they need it, or sneak it, or have a second phone, put one in the cubby and then have a second one?
Second phones are a thing for sure that they'll
Mm-hmm.
sneak them around. I don't have too much of a problem. I do have some that they need the second or third reminder, and they legitimately seem like it's I'm sorry, I forgot. And with a lot of those students, I just think you're addicted to it.
Yeah.
You don't realize that it's,
Mm-hmm.
I need to put this up there. It's part of me. I need to,
Mm-hmm.
might as well cut off my arm and put it on the front desk too. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I guess overall it's softer than I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It has fuzzy borders all around. And like I said, we just react now until
Mm-hmm.
for us, we're out in the middle of May. We're 100% reactionary until then. And then maybe after that, we can start talking about next school year and what we can do and what worked and what didn't work this year.
Yeah, and that's what I'm noticing is schools will slowly every year tighten it up a little bit more, until they are at what we all should be doing from the start, which is an ideal like bell to bell policy. And what does that look like in the idealistic world of phone policies?
You said it, bell to bell.
Yeah. So meaning they take it at the front desk or lock it up. What do you think is best?
I like the idea that I go with the brain drain. I love yonder pouches, but I go with the brain drain study. I would love to see like a psychological study on students that have the yonder pouch, have their phone in the yonder pouch.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think the way some of our kids are, I would think they're just consumed by FOMO of something's happening in this pouch right now that I'm missing. And,
Mm-hmm.
they can't check it at the end of class. I will say at the end of class, I wrap things up with about 2 minutes to go so they can pack up and get their stuff, and they get their phones and they are just right back to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bell to bell would be lock them up in the morning and then they get them as they leave. Kind of that Yonder Ideal, or there's a acrylic company now that has their case type of thing, similar
Mm-hmm.
idea, but it's going to be tough. Again, my district right now, I think, is kind of taking the victory lap because they haven't had a huge bad thing happen with phones. And so they think that what they implemented is going to be perfect forever. And I don't think it is.
Okay. Okay. So we'll follow back up on that. Let me know if anything happens that we need to document. But one thing that I'm learning now is that a phone ban is really moot because, I mean, it's important, but it's also not helpful that we also give the kids either iPads or Chromebooks where they can access a lot of the same things that they get on their phones. So tell me again about what school issued devices you guys have in your school and what kids are getting access to on there. Do you have insight into that?
We have we have Chromebooks. This is the world post ESSER funds. We have
Mm.
Chromebooks, which are sunsetting on us, whether we want them to or not.
Okay.
And there's no money to replace them. So we hope the seniors have turned all their Chromebooks back in at the start of the year. So we have Chromebooks. Yeah, we used to have some iPads here and there, but we don't have
Mm.
the money to continue that contract. Um,
Okay.
and so mostly it's school issued Chromebooks, or students have their own computers and they
Mm-hmm.
get on to the school Wi-Fi with those. Our school Wi-Fi, I will say, our IT department is on top of things, and
Good.
they would send out, kind of over the last spring, would send out these increasingly frustrated emails of, they would find that all teachers would let their kids, or teachers were signing into sites with their school Google account,
Mm-hmm.
and just not for school stuff. And so finally
Mm-hmm.
they just said, done, or we're clearing everything off. And they put the public Wi-Fi, which is what the students are on, back to just narrow path with some really tough guardrails.
Okay.
A lot of the
Okay.
things that I need as a teacher, I can't even get to anymore,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't have the problems that other schools have. We don't have anything approaching the wide open internet, which is pretty good. And ideally, most of our students are just, hopefully just going to the LMS, in our case is Canvas, and getting the assignments, or working there with a
Mm-hmm.
limited amount of research in other places. But those things are pretty tightly regulated and ad blocked and things like that. So
That's good to hear, but also disappointing because you are explaining that there is a way to lock down access pretty well on these school issued devices. But then you have schools like mine with elementary school kids just watching YouTube videos all day, or in my case, checking my daughter's school iPad and scrolling for a minute and getting served, I didn't search for it, a self-harm video. After I've been trying to work with the district for a year on not allowing the kids to have access to YouTube, because why do we need YouTube? And so what are your thoughts on
yeah,
that, I
that's
guess?
true. I fully agree with it. Our YouTube is served up that we have videos that are not accessible. They have to be approved by teacher or someone in the school.
Okay.
Otherwise, they should not be accessible, and
Mm-hmm.
largely they're not, or they're the most
Restricted.
PG things, innocuous things. But
Yeah.
there is some slip through.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a little bit. I'll, every now and then, if there's a big soccer game on or something, I will find my kids watching a soccer game
Mm-hmm.
on a school issued device that I have no idea how they were able to get around whatever guardrails that were put there. Again, we're pretty good on it. I haven't heard anything really in my
Mm-hmm.
school or others from friends of that kind of stuff going on. I'm sure there are probably some cracks and things squeak through, but yeah, what
Mm-hmm.
you were talking to me about earlier, that's horrible.
Yeah. And a fifth grader told me the other day that they just go to a website called, and I don't think this was it, something like unblocked.com or something. And
Yeah.
they can find all the games that that are technically blocked on their school issued device. But they find websites that are not blocked by the district that provide them access with whatever they want. And so, this is a large issue that I am dealing with. If parents want to learn more about school issued devices and the safety of those, I have an interview with Julie Liddell, who's an attorney with EdTech Law Center, and we talk about security precautions with school devices and what are our rights as parents, especially with the younger kids. Like, can we opt out, or can we ask our school for what data is being shared on our kids and all that kind of stuff? Are you aware if the apps and Chromebooks are a little different, but are you aware if there's ads that are being served to the kids when they're on any
Not that I've
apps?
seen, aside from what they might catch on YouTube or
Yeah. Okay.
a site that they're using to research.
Okay.
The ads should be pretty well closed off
Okay.
on
Yeah.
what
They
they
should.
see. Yeah, should be.
Yeah.
Should
Should.
be. And I will say I'm a teacher when it comes to technology in the classroom. I refer to myself, and there are more than a few of us, as a voluntary Luddite. My kids are always surprised when, oh, we have to use our Chromebooks today. I'm like, you just need to look this stuff up and have the slides from the other day as your reference for this
Mm-hmm.
packet that you're filling in or notes that
Yeah.
you're taking.
Yeah.
And so I push them off again. We're still fighting the effects from online learning with the pandemic, and
Yeah. Right.
we still have kids that can't manage any kind of legible handwriting. We still have kids that can't think critically, and
Mm-hmm.
the answer is not more screens in front of the students. That's never an answer to how we fix education. More screens. That's not it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad they made some adjustments to your phone ban at your school. And I think it definitely is a journey. That's what I'm seeing at all districts to get to where we need to be. The Phone Free Schools Movement.org, I believe, is a great resource, and it has a educator's toolkit for how, like, literally based off of having hundreds of hours of conversation and looking at research, how you can implement a phone ban successfully in your school. And it's not letting them have it in between
Yep,
classes and at
exactly.
lunch.
Yeah, I'm an ambassador with Phone Free School Movement, and
Mm-hmm.
I love the administrator toolkit, and we talked about that with the founders, and just kind of,
Mm-hmm.
here's how you slot in, and if we need to use a phone type of thing or use an app, how can we make that happen type of thing. Yeah, but
Yeah.
they've done a great job on that.
Yes. Okay. And I have an interview with Kim Whitman, who's one of the founders that parents can listen to. But to close out on phones in schools, what should parents know and take away regarding phone use in schools? Jumping in here to tell you a little bit more about Bark. The decision to give your child a device is a huge one, and we cannot default to Apple products. Apple was built for privacy, which is great for adults, but bad for kids who need parents' guidance and education through these experiences. The Bark Phone Starter Plan comes with talk and text only, and if and when you're ready to start integrating other apps or social media access, there are advanced plans available that offer social media but not without your approval. Plus, it has advanced content monitoring, which will send you alerts of potential dangers. So when it comes to a basic phone that won't addict and distract your child from school or healthier activities, the Bark Phone is where it's at. And if your child already has an iPhone or an Android and you don't want to switch it up, layer on Bark's parental controls as a baseline. You can set screen time rules, block certain websites and apps, get alerts, and tons more helpful options for parents. And Bark is dropping the Bark Watch any day now, so please join that wait list. Visit the link in my episode notes for more info on Bark. Back to my chat with Matt Brady.
Just don't. And I understand I understand. I've heard all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we talked about this before. It's that irony of, I can talk to any parent and say, remember when we were kids, how we would just get away with stuff and we didn't know when our parents would show up, and everybody laughs and goes, yeah. Oh man, things I did. And then you suggest that they do that with their kids now. And it's no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. It's so weird. Just, your kids can't learn with a screen that's distracting them. They can't learn with the, whatever you want to call it, the one arm bandit, the jukebox, the social media machine, the gossip columns, just live in their pocket. They cannot learn with that stuff going on all the time. And actually, with parents, see, this does bring me to a question I have for you, because I've heard you say many times, we can't blame the parents. I kind of go with we can't fully blame the parents.
Blame the parents in what situation are you referring to?
I think we're in a point now where if you're a parent and
Mm-hmm.
your child has a phone, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're the stereotypical parent like on the sitcom of, everyone's sitting at the dining room table and everyone's buried in their phones,
Mm-hmm.
or, you've had fights about, I need your phone, or, you need to talk to your grandmother in person, not look at your phone when she's here.
Mm-hmm.
I think parents know. And I think the behaviors that we see in a lot of students are a result of the phones. Because I joke about this. I kind of, with some students and behaviors that we see, I want to write a letter. The letter I want to write to parents is, Dear Dr. and Mrs. Frankenstein, we regret to inform you that your creature has thrown a pretty thing into the lake. Could you please let your creature know not to throw pretty things in lake?
Creature.
Because
Yeah.
they're coming programmed to us. I mean, they always do. Kids always come
Yeah.
programmed to us. But they're coming to us with these behaviors from years glued to a screen.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
it's really difficult when it's a we're the only people in the battle.
Yeah.
I've wanted to, it'd probably be my last parent teacher conference where, a parent asks, I'm the teacher at those, a parent asks, and says, what can we do about, my student? And I want to say, well, does your student have a cell phone? Yes. What kind of rules do you put on that? What kind of boundaries you put on that? And if they
Mm-hmm.
hesitate, or if they go, well, no, I want to get up and leave. Like, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think
I
it's a
know.
delicate place, because we definitely need parents on our side
Mm-hmm.
in this, but it's a delicate place of those same parents who've been giving the phone to the baby since it was riding in the grocery cart and started to cry. And it's a
I
soothing
know.
mechanism. And so, yeah, it,
Yeah. So when a child is harmed or killed, where does the blame lie? Right. And there's a lot of factors, and every situation is very different. And I've heard the stories firsthand. And a lot of times the parents had parental controls. They had conversations.
yeah,
They didn't give the kid a phone until they were 13 or 14 years old, which is late for a lot of kids.
right.
And this still happened. Now, there are situations where a kid was on TikTok at 10 and was served a choking challenge video, tried it, and died. Whose fault is that? The parent thinks, the parent in that case specifically thinks that the kid is just watching dance videos on TikTok.
Mhm.
Never in their wildest dreams would they think that TikTok would serve this kid a video showing them to choke themselves.
Right.
So, while obviously that 10-year-old shouldn't be having a phone on their own, the parent isn't thinking this is a life or death situation and that they need to protect them from literally death by giving them this
Yeah.
device. So yes, like I hear you, but
I totally agree with you on that.
yeah.
Because the parent, that's, yeah.
But this societal thing about giving our kids phones to distract them when they're babies all the way up through teen years, and just letting them use the devices, defaulting to devices to get things done. You're right. I think parents need to know better at this point.
It has an effect. It has an
Yeah.
effect. And, there's only so much that teachers can do in the classroom. And if your child has socializing issues, if your child has focus issues, if your child, because they've been basically, pulling the arm on a one-arm bandit
Slot machine.
Slot machine. Yeah. There we go. The slot machine.
Yeah.
They've been pulling the arm of the slot machine for the past, 7 years of their lives. I used to think about it in terms of, of course we can't. The whole kind of the saying of, well, teachers need to meet students where they're at. And, if students are living in this media rich world, maybe it's time for teachers to step up. We can't. I cannot compete with this curated universe that this teenager has developed over years, where their smallest wish and desire is already thought of and is 3 topics down as they scroll, or 2 clicks away. I can't compete with that at all.
No.
And
the phones or the Chromebooks, or especially the iPads, like those devices weren't made safe for school.
No.
Those devices were made to addict them to, and I'm reading from my board speech that I'm giving tonight, but they're designed to addict them. They use invasive data practices. They can connect them. These platforms outwardly connect them with predators. So you're fighting a losing battle by trying to use these devices for learning. It's good to hear that certain districts are locking them down better than others, but generally they're unsafe. And so phones,
Yeah.
no more. But school issued devices, we either need to come up with a school safe device product, and that does not exist currently, and is actually pretty easy to create. They just can't compete with Apple and
Right.
Google, who have all the government contracts.
Yep.
And without having that, schools need to use devices later and less. That's just the only thing I can think of to help that issue.
100%. 100%. I need something that can get the apps that I need for my classes that doesn't have jailbreak ability, that they can
Yeah,
get into it if they want to and
right.
get it. You're looking at TikTok on my class iPad. Yeah. Yep. We need something like that. But you nailed it though. They can't compete. No one's gonna,
Mhm.
unless we get a big LA, New York, somebody in Texas to do a massive buy of these things.
Mhm.
No one can compete.
No. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I want
making
to
me
follow
feel
back
happy
up with
here.
the good luck, parents. Uh, so I think these conversations are really important, and I love letting parents hear from the voice of teachers how these issues are unfolding in the classroom regarding school issued devices and phones, and so parents can help by communicating with their kids. Help your teacher out by just turn your phone off. Parents, don't give your kid a phone until as late as possible. And even when you do, give them a phone that has school mode, like the Bark phone, where they get nothing, no access during
Yep.
school hours, and you actually use that functionality.
Yeah.
And with school issued devices, speak up to your school about ask them, how are you keeping my kids safe? I put together 7 questions that you can ask your school district and your principal, really, and put them on my website under resources. So parents can start there. And there's more resources coming because this is an up and coming thing I think parents are going to start fighting back against more and more. But is there anything for today that we didn't cover? And then let's definitely do follow-ups in the future too.
No, I think that does it. Like I said,
Okay.
I'm interested on seeing how this goes as we go later into fall. And when teachers start seeing Thanksgiving and Christmas break, it's kind of race for the finish line, and
Mm-hmm.
rules kind of start to fall away because we just got to get done. So that's my
Okay.
worry. That's my big worry. I want to hear from some of these other schools. I hope they're collecting data to see
Mm-hmm.
what their test scores. Unfortunately, that's the metric we use to see what
Mm-hmm.
their test scores look like.
Okay.
I want to hear good stories. I want to hear the bad stories too. So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
hopefully, it's mostly good stories.
Hopefully. And where can listeners connect with you? Can you tell us about your Substack?
My Substack right now, that's about the only active thing I have going anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's been a week or two since I've done that. That's
That's
Teacher
okay.
Teacher on Substack.
Okay.
With a long, sad story of how I tried and failed to get my district and my school to go phone free.
Thank you for sharing, because in order to be successful, we have to learn from those who failed, right?
Thanks. Yeah.
But you haven't failed yet. I mean,
Not
this is a
yet. Not yet.
process,
I'm still trying. Yep.
And I love to hear that you are working with the Phone Free Schools movement, because they have figured it out, and we need more schools to jump on board. So Matt, thank you so much for your time. This has
Thank you.
been really an interesting update, and we'll keep listeners updated. And I encourage parents to just keep bringing these things up to your school. If you don't have a good enough phone policy in your school, I also have an email that I use to send to my school in a template on my website under resources as well. So you can just copy and paste that and personalize it. So that's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you, Matt.
Cool. It's a lot of fun.